For our Black History presentation, we're going to be doing Katherine Johnson and Mary Jackson. You guys know about them from the movie Hidden Figures, what I think all of us have seen. So Wendy's going to start off with Katherine Jackson. I'm going to turn it over to her, and then we'll go into Mary Jackson and go from there. So go ahead, sweetie.
Okay. Katherine Johnson had a long and remarkable life. Born in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, on August 26, 1918, her intense curiosity and brilliance with numbers vaulted her ahead several grades in school. By age 13, she was attending high school on the campus of historically black West Virginia State College, which is a HBCU. At 18, she enrolled in the college itself, where she excelled in the school's math curriculum and found a mentor in math professor W.W. Sheffelin Claytor, who is the third African American to earn a PhD in mathematics. She graduated with highest honors in 1937 and took a job teaching at a black public school in Virginia. She graduated from college at the age of 19. When West Virginia decided to quietly integrate its graduate schools in 1939, West Virginia State's president, Dr. John W. Davis, selected her and two men to be the first black students offered spots at the state's flagship school, which is a white school, West Virginia University. She left her teaching job and enrolled in graduate math program. At the end of the first season, though, she decided to leave school and start a family with her first husband, James Goebel. She returned to teaching with her three daughters when her three daughters got older, which was a span of about 12 years. So she left that math program, but she came back after 12 years. And it wasn't until 1952 that a relative told her about open positions at an all-black West Area Computing section of the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, which was before NASA. They had NACA and Langley, that was headed by a fellow West Virginian, Dorothy Vaughan. That was the third hidden figure. Katherine and her husband decided to move the family to Newport News, Virginia to pursue that opportunity, and Katherine began working at Langley in the summer of 1953. And when she had only been there 2 weeks in that office, Dorothy Vaughan assigned her to a project in the Maneuver Loads branch of the Flight Research Division. And Katherine's temporary position became permanent because she was so good. She spent the next 4 years analyzing data from flight tests and worked on the investigation of a plane crash caused by wake turbulence. As she was wrapping up this work, her husband died of cancer in 1956. In 1957, the launch of the Soviet satellite Sputnik changed history, and it changed Katherine Johnson's life, because in 1957 she provided some of the math for the 1958 a document called Notes on Space Technology. So she was even calculating and doing the math for traveling to space in 1958.
Wow.
Man, anyway, it talks about a compendium of series and the lectures by engineers in the Flight Research Division and the Pilotless Aircraft Research Division. Johnson, who worked with many of these engineers since coming to Langley, came along with the program that they started for the they called it the Space Task Group of NACA. And you know, right after that, they turned NACA into NASA, because they were now going to travel to space. She did trajectory analysis for Alan Shepard's Mission Freedom 7 in 1961. That first trip into space, she did the trajectory analysis. America's first human space flight. In 1960, she and engineer Ted Skopinski co-authored Determination of Azimuth Angle at Burnout for placing a satellite over a selected Earth position. Okay, a report laying out the equations describing an orbital space flight in which the landing position of the spacecraft is specified. She was the first woman, this was the first time a woman in Flight Research Division had received credit as an author of a research report. In 1962, as NASA prepared for the orbital mission of John Glenn, and this is what's in the movie, Johnson was called upon to do the work that she would become known for. The complexity of the orbital flight had required the construction of a worldwide communications network linking stations around the world to IBM computers in Washington, Cape Canaveral in Florida, Bermuda. The computers had been programmed with the orbital equations that would control the trajectory of the capsule in Glenn's Friendship 7 mission from liftoff to splashdown. But the astronauts were wary of putting their lives in the care of electronics, so they were afraid of the computers. But John Glenn said, "Get that girl, Johnson, to run the same numbers through the same equations that have been programmed by the computers. Have her do it by hand." And she did that on her desktop mechanical calculating machine. And he said, if she says they're good, then I'll go to space. Let's see. Oops, sorry. Glenn's flight was a success and marked a turning point in the competition between the US and the Soviet Union. Now, when she was asked, what was your greatest contribution to space exploration, Johnson would talk about the calculations that helped sync Project Apollo lunar module with the Lunar Orbiting Command and Service module. So to her, her greatest accomplishment was not for John Glenn, it was for Apollo lunar module. She also worked on the space shuttle because she lived a long time. And Earth Resources Technologies satellite, later known as Landsat, and she authored and co-authored 26 research reports. She retired in 1986 after 33 years at Langley. And she said, "I loved going to work every single day." In 2015, at age 97, Johnson was awarded by President Barack Obama the Presidential Medal of Freedom, America's highest civilian honor. She died February 24th, 2020. NASA Administrator James Bridenstine said, "Our NASA family is sad to learn that Katherine Johnson has passed away at 101 years old. She was an American hero, and her pioneering legacy will never be forgotten."
A new center that was built in NASA in the early 2000s called the Computational Research Center. It is a place dedicated to all that technical, mathematical computation with positive computers and whatnot. And they named that, before it was built, they named that for Katherine Johnson because she was the one who made sure that John Glenn and the other astronauts were okay when they went on their first flights. Oh, there she is? Okay, there it is. Katherine D. Johnson Computational Research Facility, 1 Lindbergh Way. So she was a very special person. I also want to take time to say that my wife looked good this morning. I don't want to embarrass her, but I looked at her and I said, "Girl, you look good. Lord have mercy." As you said last week, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, so forth and so on. So I digress. But anyway, I just had to mention that. Let me see if I can get the next one up here. Okay, all right. Well, while they're getting that up there, I'll go ahead and talk about Mary Jackson. For Mary Winston Jackson, a love of science and a commitment to improving the lives of the people around her were one and the same. In the 1970s, she helped the youngsters in the science club at Hampton's King Street community build their own wind tunnel and use it to conduct experiments. We have to do something to let them know about black men and women who are interested in science, she said in an article for a local newspaper. Sometimes they are not aware of the number of black scientists and engineers and don't even know of the career opportunities until it's too late. Mary's own path to engineering and the engineering career at NASA Langley Research Center was far from direct. A native of Hampton, Virginia, she graduated from Hampton Institute in 1942 with a dual degree in math and physical sciences and accepted a job as a math teacher at a black school in Calvert County, Maryland. Hampton had become one of the nerve centers of the World War II home front effort, and after a year of teaching, Mary returned home finding a position as the receptionist at the King Street USO Club, which serves the city's black population. It would take 3 more career changes, a post as a bookkeeper in Hampton Institute's health department, a stint at home following the birth of her son Levi, and a job as an Army secretary at Fort Monroe, before she landed at Langley Research Center, the Memorial Aeronautical Laboratory's segregated West Area Computing Section in 1951. That's the one that Wendy mentioned before on the NACA. Reporting to the group's supervisor, Dorothy Vaughan. Dorothy Vaughan was the 3rd hidden figure that was in that movie. After 2 years into computing, Mary received an offer for engineer Kazimierz Zarnecki in the 4-foot by 4-foot supersonic pressure tunnel, a 60,000 horsepower wind tunnel capable of blasting models with winds approaching twice the speed of sound. Zarnecki offered Mary hands-on experience conducting experiments in the facility and eventually suggested that she enter a training program that would allow her to earn a promotion from mathematician to engineer. Trainees had to take graduate level math and physics and after-work courses managed by the University of Virginia. Because the classes were held at then segregated Hampton High School, however, Mary needed special permission from the city of Hampton to join her white peers in the classroom. Never one to flinch in the face of a challenge, Mary completed the courses, earned the promotion, and in 1958 became NASA's first, not Langley Research Center, NASA's first black female engineer. That same year, she co-authored her first report, Effective Nose Angle and Mach Number on the Transition of Cones at Supersonic Speeds. When I talk about NASA, we're talking about Langley Research Center, Kennedy Research Center, Canaveral, Lewis Research Center, Houston Center, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. She was the first black female engineer in all of those areas. We'll talk about that in just a second. Mary began her engineering career in the era which female engineers of any background were a rarity in the 1950s. She may have well been the only black female aeronautical engineer in the field. Mary retired from Langley in 1985. Among her many honors were an Apollo Group Achievement Award and being named Langley's Volunteer of the Year in 1976. She served as the chair of one of the center's annual United Way campaigns, which led a Girl Scout troop for more than 3 decades and a member of the National Technical Association, the oldest African-American technical organization in the United States. She and her husband, Levi, had an open-door policy for young Langley recruits trying to gain their footing in a new town and a new career. A 1976 Langley researcher profile might have done the best job capturing Mary's spirit and character, calling her a gentle lady, wife, mother, humanitarian, and scientist. For Mary W. Jackson, science and service went hand in hand. Now, I had a video, but I'm taking a long time, and I don't want to spend too much. Let me see if I can get, take that. See if you can get the video up there, Barrett. Oh, nope, it's not going to go to it. It's real short. It's only about a minute and a half, and he's working on it right now. But I can say this. One of the things that, or the reasons why I chose Mary Jackson, and along with that, Katherine Johnson, because I knew this lady personally. I was very honored. They talked about, oh, here we go. Let's see the video.
Mary Jackson is fairly well known from the recent book and film, Hidden Figures. However, she was more than a character in a movie. She was a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, a Hamilton University graduate, and the first female black engineer at NASA. She gained this distinction after taking night courses for white men in the workforce at the University of Virginia. She had to argue for special permission to take these courses in front of a Virginia judge, and succeeded. She worked as an engineer with NASA through the end of the 1970s, working on the Gemini and Apollo missions. However, in 1979, she turned her attention to another aspect of the country's future. Mrs. Jackson took a demotion in favor of heading NASA's fledgling women's program. There, she promoted opportunities for women to not only succeed as NASA engineers, but also to surpass her and begin to fill the highest positions. In 1985, Mary Jackson retired to be with her family. She continued to serve as a Girl Scout leader, inspiring young women to pursue careers in science. Her troop even constructed their own wind tunnel to run tests in. While Mary Jackson died in 2005, a decade before Hidden Figures was released, the NASA DC office was renamed in her honor in 2020. The National Society of Black Physicists strives to continue her work of inclusion and visibility, and we appreciate your support.
So you saw that about the National Society of Black Physicists. What I was saying earlier was that I had an opportunity to participate in a charter program. Mary Jackson was very focused on helping young black aspiring engineers and scientists get started. You saw her with those ladies that she was with in that photo, in the video. I was part of a group that started in 1972. It's about 9 of us along the east coast of America who were aspiring to be engineers, and there was a charter program that was started by Mary Jackson. We lived there in Hampton, Virginia when we was there working, and Miss Jackson was a surrogate mother to us. This lady loved us as kids. I mean, we were just young 18-year-olds right out of high school, and she took real good care of us. We could go over her house and just chill out. We could go over there and have dinner on Sunday. We go over there and I helped Mr. Levi. We called him Daddy Jack, and we called her Mama Jack, by the way. But I'd help Daddy Jack cut the grass and play with the dog and stuff. They were really parents to us while we were away. And that was the special thing about her. Not once did Mary Jackson say anything about her history, about who she was and what she had done. And it was only until the movie came out that I realized who she was, because I called my buddy who still works he's retired from NASA. I said, man, is that Mama Jack? He said, yeah, that's Mama Jack. I said, man, I started crying. Real special lady. Lastly, I want to just name one thing. That slide right there. Mary Jackson was part of a group of very important women who helped NASA succeed in getting American astronauts into space. She never accepted the status quo. She helped break barriers and open opportunities for African Americans and women in the field of engineering and technology, and young African American men also. As recognition of her significant contributions to NASA, the headquarters building in Washington, D.C. was named after her in 2020. It appropriately sits on Hidden Figures Way, a reminder that Mary is one of the many incredible and talented professionals in NASA's history who contributed to the agency's success. Hidden no more, NASA will continue to recognize the contributions of women, African Americans, and people in all backgrounds who have made NASA's successful history of exploration possible. This was a very special lady. Thank you very much for your time.